I was 10 years old when Doctor Who magazine issue 144 told me that The Chase was one of the worst Doctor Who serials ever made. I love watching The Chase, for a variety of reasons, but there's no denying that when it comes to executing complex special effects or creating believable sets, the serial frequently falls short. A lot of the issues that plague this programme are down to director Richard Martin, but some of it is down to bad luck, and some of it is completely typical for the time. But due to a confluence of reasons, episode 4 of The Chase is plagued with so many problems that it might just be the most technically flawed Doctor Who episode of all time. Some of the production problems have been digitally fixed in the DVD release, so in this video we've gone back to earlier source material to inspect the episode as it would have been seen on original broadcast. So let's run through the episode together with a critical eye and peer at the broken scenery, bad blocking and bizarre balls-ups. If you'd like to support our research, contribute ideas, and see clips and early videos, then check out the link in the description on how to join our Patreon.
If you're a regular viewer of our content, you'll know how we seek out interviews and other behind-the-scenes source material to better understand how Doctor Who's made and gather quotes from people who worked on TV shows both then and now. So I was really excited to discover an app called Readly, which aggregates 7,000 magazine titles into the palm of your hand, and we can get you 2 months free, which you can cancel any time. One of the toughest things for me to keep on top of when I'm scripting videos is remembering what issue of, say, SFX magazine had a particular feature. I've been buying SFX on and off for about 30 years, and I've got random stacks of issues all over the place. So being able to search for names or topics across not just the latest issue, but so many back issues is a godsend. For example, a quick search of Millennium FX brings up a feature I hadn't seen before about designing Doctor Who, and we can see it all in this convenient and clear reader view with loads of delicious info. And from there we can click the thing to see the cover of the issue we're looking at, and we have the option to view the magazine in its normal layout. We can browse that same article and then of course continue to flick through the magazine as normal. Or by searching Terry Nation, I just found out that he wrote a screenplay for a film comedy about the Loch Ness Monster in 1961. So that was new information to me. The combination of having so many back issues and being able to search them makes Readly very enticing. But the range of material too is amazing. I've added to my library some history and true crime, which won't surprise you if you've enjoyed my Jack the Ripper video on this channel, and I've barely scratched the surface. It's just so good for tube journeys or any trips with bad signal because you can download everything and read it offline. So if you want to try Readly for 2 months absolutely free, you can access thousands of magazines by clicking the link in the description and the pinned comment below. Don't forget you can cancel any time, so why not try weeks and weeks of seemingly endless magazine content for absolutely nothing.
The very first shot of the episode after the recap perfectly encapsulates The Chase, a brand new concept, an exciting visual effect, done incredibly badly. Unless you count the on-screen graphics seen in Doctor Who's pilot episode, director Richard Martin decides to show us the first ever view of the TARDIS in the Time Vortex, although it was never given this name. This effect was achieved by creating a kaleidoscope using 3 mirrors, and at the end of the triangular tube, a space backdrop is randomly moved around. Unfortunately, pointing a camera lens down a dark tube would have produced a pretty featureless void, so what appears to have happened is that a light was positioned behind the camera to illuminate the view down the tube. The problem with this is that the shadow of the camera therefore appears as a black square on the space-time vortex, which is of course caught in all the reflections. When a similar effect was done in episode 6, they decided not to use the mirrors, but they did retain the same space backdrop, which can be determined due to the distinctive pattern in the stars producing what looks like a letter A between 2 dots, which can be seen down the kaleidoscope in episode 4 and at the edge of the galaxy in episode 6. When the Doctor steps from the TARDIS, the back of the police box prop can be seen, although in the early days of Doctor Who they never lost much sleep over being able to see through the doors. Now it's not for me to say whether this bat was meant to land on the staircase banisters, so maybe this isn't a mistake, but I would suggest we're not supposed to see the string on which the bat was suspended. And whilst we're on this shot, you can see that the top of this stair rod is missing, revealing their hollow nature. In this shot we just glimpse the shadow of a boom mic, which is quite subtle, but the camera's shadow on Ian in the next shot is not so subtle. The offending camera can also be seen reversing as Ian comes down the stairs. To give you a better view of this, here's the shot stabilised and rewound. The next production mistake is one of the most surprising and glaring ever seen on screen, I think, and that is the full view of a Dalek in the background of this shot before the Daleks have landed on the planet. It's inconceivable to me how this made it through to the final recording session, when all of the blocking and the moves of the actors and the Daleks should have been worked out meticulously. The next mistake is that Maureen O'Brien speaks her line too early before the shot changes to her here, and then she has to repeat the line a moment later when she's on screen.
What's that in aid of?
If I was being really nitpicky, I would point out that the square pattern on this rotating disc is misaligned with its central pivot, so what should be a straight line in the middle becomes two dots and a diagonal. But I'm not going to mention that because there is a much more significant problem coming up in a few moments. In this shot, the second Dalek behind the Dalek time machine is holding the door closed, so when it moves forward, the door swings open, and we can see straight through this triangular prop. Another really petty nitpick here, but Frankenstein's monster is breathing very heavily, which might have been okay if he was a monster, but as it turns out, this is a robot. Maybe it's just a very accurate robot with lungs. As Ian and the Doctor come down the stairs here, you can see the arm of a Dalek, which is not yet supposed to have emerged from the doorway of the time ship. And then in this shot, you can see the Dalek in the background, and the arm of the Dalek in the foreground, which is not supposed to be there yet. In this shot, Vicky and the Dalek wait an agonising amount of time before their action, and there we see the Dalek in the foreground, now it really is there. The TARDIS dematerialisation here is a video inlay, but the two cameras used to achieve this effect were not both perfectly stationary, so the TARDIS floats around somewhat as it disappears, and you can see this better when speeded up. The next glitch is one of the many consequences of director Richard Martin's level of ambition being his own downfall, because it's a really effective and innovative idea to electronically add a digital countdown. So this actually looks really good, right up until the moment the Dalek moves underneath the video overlay and spoils everything. This is one of the effects that has been digitally retouched on the DVD. Would it be petty of me to mention the cardboard cutout Dalek at the top of the ramp? Probably don't need to. This was the first serial in which the Daleks had new solar slats fitted around the shoulder section, and these Perspex editions were constantly breaking, with two snapped examples seen here. Whilst it would be easy to point out that Edmund Warwick is not a perfect look-alike for William Hartnell, it's more frustrating that it's almost impossible to see what Vicky is reacting to in this shot. In the construction of the TARDIS set in studio, the photo blow-up of the roundels on the walls is poorly set up, as was often the case, with the edge of the repeating pattern disappearing behind a join. I think this crane shot is fantastic, and the Daleks look great at this angle, but it also captures a member of the production team moving through the studio at the bottom of frame. This is another feature that was digitally painted out for the DVD release. Again, Edmund Warwick is not a perfect match for Hartnell, but probably more notable is the fact that he fails to lip-sync in time to the pre-recorded dialogue of William Hartnell.
Understand? Of course I understand, my dear fellow.
Director Richard Martin opted to cut to a close-up of the real William Hartnell in the next shot, but as this was done concurrently, he could not be standing in the same spot as the robot doctor. Therefore the background completely changes on close-up. And if you were observant enough to spot it, William Hartnell is standing in front of that same view screen where the electronic countdown was overlaid in the other room. And that brings us to the end of episode 4, but let's just have a look at episode 5 as a bonus, because it too is riddled with problems. We get this shot of the Dalek time machine, which was not meant to be viewed from the back, and as a result we can see the unpainted timber struts and rear fascia with no detailing on it. Once again, Edmund Warwick fails to lip-sync properly.
Infiltrate, separate, and kill. Yes, I understand.
The Dalek time machine is clearly visible in the background of this shot, even though it's supposed to be a different part of the jungle. Here, through the mouth of the cave, you can see a Dalek in the background, which should not be visible. And there it is in close-up. In this moment, neither the cameraman nor Maureen O'Brien seem ready for this shot to begin. In the broadcast version, the vision mixer flipping between two cameras often produces an electronic jump like this, known as an off-lock, and these contemporary hardware glitches have been removed from the DVD release. There is a little trouble here with the Dalek prop, which ultimately just works within the context of the scene, whereby the Dalek's gun is accidentally caught on one of the loops of the fungoid's tendrils, so when it complains about being stuck, it has actually been caught. Again, there's another mistimed shot where the robot doctor, Ian and Vicky don't commence walking until well after the camera has cut to them. I can't readily think of any other stories where this happens so frequently, and I don't know whether to ascribe these issues to the director or the vision mixer, or if there was any later editing being done badly. And while we're on this shot, again, we should not be able to see the Dalek time machine in the background. And here are a couple more of those electronic glitches. And we end on a fairly trivial shadow of a boom mic across Ian and visible in the top left corner. And that's the end of our little look at episodes 4 and 5 of The Chase. I don't mean to do this to be unduly negative, but it is fascinating how many things can go wrong in certain episodes of a production like Doctor Who, but not in others. And like I say, much of that is down to the ambition of the director trying to present to us as many fantastical and interesting images as possible, but some of the problems are completely inexplicable. Let us know in the comments if we should do another of these videos to complete our breakdown of The Chase, looking at episodes 1 to 3.